All right, hello and welcome. Thank you to everyone for hanging tight. I said this last week, Jeff, but my Mondays are always hectic. Uh, so, with the time zone change, my kids are not accepting that it is in fact bedtime at bedtime. They are they're convinced. They're like, "Well, no, my body's telling me very clearly that it is not bedtime, father. Bedtime is in an hour."
I
So
never thought of that, or how it would mess with children.
it does. I mean, it messes with me. I woke up this morning, technically yesterday too, but like I woke up this morning at 8. I'm like, oh man, I slept in, but my body's going, you didn't though. I'm quite certain that this is just 7.
It's that sun position.
It is. It's the circadian rhythm of our lives. It's rough. Have I tried chloroform? I have not, Cinnabon, but thank you for your sage parenting advice. I'll put that right in the same category as whiskey on the gums for teething.
You shouldn't listen to Cinnabon. He has some wild ideas.
He definitely does.
He does. We love him for it, but just can't take his advice.
Oh gosh, and Iffy FSX, was I going to start without you? No, certainly not. I was just going to hang out with everyone for a few minutes because that is absolutely what we do here. I usually start a little closer on time, but then we chew the fat a little bit before we get going here. And I actually, speaking of chewing the fat, I had a question for Jeff over in Discord today. I'm pretty sure it was you. You dropped a link to a video from, oh, what's his name? He's a redhead Irish
Dave
guy.
Cullen?
Dave Cullen,
Dave
that's
Cullen.
the guy.
Yeah.
He's putting out the theory that woke is dead, that the movie industry is starting to catch up to the reality that when you go woke, you go broke, and he's saying that this is the beginning of the end. And he points specifically to Madam Web and the star Madam Web, Dakota something or other, I think is her name.
Johnson.
Dakota,
Johnson.
did I get the first name right?
You did.
Yes.
I'm shocked a little
You
bit.
should be. But so he says that because of Dakota Johnson's response of Madam Web, and she's really trying to distance herself, and she makes some comments about how, oh well, you can't do art by committee. That there's so many people whose hands are in the baskets of, like, this is what the movie needs to say, this is what we need to do, this is sort of people we need to hire, this is how this scene needs to go, this is what this part of the script needs to go. We got 12 different writers on staff. Not one of them can make a joke because apparently they're all having to approve every word of the joke. And he's saying people are waking up to this, especially the actors are saying this is no way to go. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, she says that you can't make art by numbers or algorithms or formulas. And I do agree with that. You know, you get too many people that are trying to produce this movie or show, and they all have their ideas, and it has to be approved by everything, and you just get it watered down to nothing after you get it through all the different filters. So I do agree with her, but I question Dave Cullen's jump from that to woke is dying, which is the title of his video. Woke is dying. And he points to the media starting to not cover for the failures of these Marvel films, Madam Web that we just had come out last month. I didn't even know it was out. I didn't know it had come out. I didn't hear anything about it, and apparently it was a failure at the theater. And you're starting to see the actors, the actresses in this case, they're coming out against the film, saying, you know, you can't make movies this way. That audiences are smart, the producers think they're not smart, and this is just no way to make films. And there was not criticism like that in the past. So he's taken that and taking that to the logic that woke is dying. And I'm not sure you can say that. He says that woke will die within about 18 months. We'll see. I hope he's right, because I agree with a lot of what he says. Yeah, we have gone too far. Women are overpowered. They achieve things without earning it. Basically, you're putting men down, especially white men, especially white Christian men. You have the differing gender politics being promoted, and audiences being tired of it. I'm not sure how he's getting how that is all dying from what she's saying, but we'll see.
Well, I had forgotten he mentioned the it was bounding into comics, where a year ago they would have been all over a movie like this and praising it that it's groundbreaking and an all-female cast and female writers and this is something to be celebrated, and they would have kind of covered up for the fact that it was just an atrocious movie, because it was like the acting is stale, the delivery is stale, the dialogue is stale. Like even you've got a seasoned actor in there, there's only so much he can do with just atrocious dialogue, and the dialogue was the worst. And so usually they would have covered for that, and this time they're not. And it is interesting they're not. But like Mr. Lundell, Groovy Movies was guessing it's going to be at least a year before it goes, if it does go. I'm personally not convinced it is going to go. I'd like it to go, for all the reasons you just mentioned. I have no problem with. It's called the girl boss. I have no problem with a girl boss, as long as she's done organically. So, a good example of this would be the Terminator franchise with Sarah Connors. She was absolutely a girl boss in Terminator 2. I mean, you saw her doing the workout routine. You saw her take down the guards. I mean, she very cleverly used the stuff around her and her own physique to like take advantage of everyone and get out of the situation. But they never had it be like, oh, you know what? She's a 5'1" girl who weighs 90 pounds when wet, and here she is taking on the Rock Johnson, and she's throwing him through walls and stuff. Like, they never tried to do that with Sarah Connor. So that'd be a complete suspension of disbelief moment. And that's what they're doing now. Like the person who replaced John Connors, that really short Hispanic girl, like they're like, this is the new leader of the revolution. And it's like, no one's buying this. Like you're trying to have her do things that are outside her obvious abilities to do it, because she's not a superhero. Like, it's one thing if you have a literal superhero. I'm trying to think of Captain Marvel. She's throwing people around, let's say. Okay, fine. She has superpowers. I can believe that someone with superpowers is doing superhuman things. Although even with her, they messed her up because, she had no arc. And that's kind of a failure that we're seeing with the woke movement and I think we talked about this on Discord like months or years ago, about how these modern movies and TV shows have the same failings that like Hallmark Christian movies have, where the message trumps the movie. And so you're going along, and all of a sudden, everything stops as they look into the camera and they say, Jesus has a message for you. Which, as a Christian, I agree. Jesus does have a message for you. It's really important. It's about your soul and how you need him for salvation. Great, important stuff. But the movie, the Christian writers don't know how to integrate that into the movie. And so, like, everything stops, and you're like, this is pure cringe happening right now. Like, I support you, and this is cringe. And that's what they're doing in modern movies with their messaging. They don't know how to take whatever they want to talk about and integrate it into the actual movie. And yes, Thomas, I know this isn't Babylon 5, but I saw Jeff posted this, and I was curious about his thoughts on it before we jump into the movie. Or not movie, but episode of Babylon 5.
Just a little banter before the episode, Thomas.
Plus, I'm a little thrown off because I literally was like, so I never know how much to tell you guys, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So my son, he's in his room crying. I'm like, what's going on? My wife is texting me, hey, can you talk to him real quick? So I go in there, and he's like, I don't feel like you give me any snuggles. And I'm over here like, are you kidding? I just spent like the past half hour reading a book to you with you snuggled up to me. Like, where's this coming from? And so like I'm transitioning from, hey, my son is being crazy to, hey, we're going to talk about a sci-fi show. So just getting my feet under me, Thomas. But let me go ahead and drop this into the chat and we will pin that. So the way this works, I think everyone has probably been here for it before, but just in case this is your first time with us, the link I just dropped in the chat, that is the link to our screening room. You can watch this right now and only right now on that link during the live stream. As soon as the live stream is done, I take this down because this is not some way for you to get it. If you want it, please go do it legally. You can either buy it on Amazon Prime. They cost like $1.99 episode or $20 for the whole season or something. And it's the digital remastered one if you want to stream it without ads. If you're okay with ads, you can stream it right now for free from Tubi. And I have links to Amazon and Tubi down in the description. So if you want to do either one of those, that's a great way to go about watching Babylon 5. But there's actually an even better way. All the series are on Blu-ray. Blu-ray.
Blu-ray, that's a new one.
Yeah. Wow. I can speak good, I promise. You can watch it right now on Blu-ray. The entire series is, I think it's normally around $100 on Amazon.
Yeah, I bought it for about $93 off of Amazon.
Yeah, and then every once in a while they do sales. I saw it for $79 when we first started doing this about a month ago now. So, I mean, it's 4K. Yeah, Omnicast 4K Blu-ray.
Blu-ray. I like it.
So Blu-ray and Code of Honor. I don't think I'm ever going to live this down now.
That's why we like you, Matthew.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm so glad. But those are the ways you can watch it.
You can also get it on iTunes as well as on Google Play.
Ooh, I did not know that.
So it is available. It is available there from YouTube as well. And there are a couple episodes that have problems on some of the services, and we will mention them when we get to those episodes.
Oh, I look forward to learning what those are. And yeah, Thomas is saying that the Blu-ray box sucks. So
it does.
I don't know what they're thinking there. You know, you spend all this money digitally remastering the series, so it's on 4K. You package the thing, and you're like, let's use a tissue paper for the DVD box, and it's like, why?
Well, one point I will say is that the Blu-rays are not 4K; they are 1080p, which is still very good quality. Now, they did remaster the series in 4K, except for the CGI effects, which they upscaled to 1080p, and that's why they downscaled the for broadcast and for the Blu-rays to 1080p, the live action sequences match.
If he's saying it's not really remastered, I thought it was mostly remastered.
They took the original film and they remastered it to 1080p. The effects are still the same. They had to upscale them to 1080p, but it's still remastered live action sequences.
So it's just an upscaling of the effects, not actually reprocessing. Right. Okay. Well, oh well. I mean, I thought they'd put in a little more effort to that, but I'm glad that at least they did the film portion. Because that's one of the great things about true film. Film, like on a reel, we have the individual frames, you can almost indefinitely upscale that when you digitize it. That's why you're able to see.
That's essentially what they did for the live action sequences.
Josh, you almost forgot about Dolphin Boy reacting to B5. We'll start. Okay, we'll start. So hopefully
Omnicast is right. When I bought cases for the Blu-rays because I felt just like Omnicast, I was going to snap the discs when I tried to take them out of the box they came in.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, they're that bad.
I've had cases like that. Somehow it's Disney's fault. I'm sure, Thomas. I'm sure. It all comes back to Disney. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the clips up here. I will hit the play button and the start the clips, and let's say 3. Oh, wait. I made a prediction. Last
You
week,
did.
I predicted this is the episode called Infection. And I said, as much as I want this to be kind of esoteric and, maybe by infection, they mean infection of the mind or infection thought or like a computer infection. I said, there's a reason sci-fi tropes are sci-fi tropes. And at the end of the day, what this episode is going to be about is a literal infection. It's going to be starring the Doctor. We're focusing on the Doctor as he fights a literal infection coming onto the station. And the Doctor, I actually forget his name. He's only been in one episode.
Stephen Franklin.
I
like
Dr.
the last
Franklin.
name.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
right.
the last name. Yeah.
I got to peg that in my memory. Franklin. It's an easy one to remember. So I think it's going to be focusing on Franklin as he combats the infection. The big question, is this an intentional act of sabotage, or is this a natural outgrowing of alien species as they interact with one another? I don't know enough about B5 yet to really make a strong guess here, but I'm going to guess this is a natural integration of species and how they have to deal with how they interact with one another. That's going to be my prediction here. So let's find out. If you're at home and watching this later, we always have the clips below, and I actually fixed my camera so I can point to it correctly because I'm OCD. You can watch it below, or you can do one of the aforementioned.
It's the other way. It's the other way.
No, I'm pointing the right way. Right, it's the right way for me and on the stream.
Oh, I see. It's reversed on YouTube. It's not reversed here.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I'll look at the stream later, and
it's right on the stream.
Okay.
It is right on the stream, but not right here.
Okay. So you can watch the clips. Only clips. There's no sound. As always, please let me know if there is sound so I can fix that before this gets taken down. And we will start this in 3, 2, 1. Hit that play button. And as always, please, no spoilers. I watch all these live with y'all for the first time. And yes, Sinclair is, again, going out on his own in a fighter to investigate something. He's a very hands-on sort of guy. and Mr. Garibaldi, Mr. Mike, he's trying to, I guess, charm this lady. This news reporter who for some reason is quite convinced that Sinclair doesn't want to be interviewed, despite the fact that this is the 2nd anniversary of Babylon 5 going live.
I don't like reporters. More specifically, I don't like being interviewed by them. So I can sympathize with Sinclair.
Tom is saying that Deleaning is really a Klingon. Do you mean Delin?
Yes, he's trying to troll you.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise from Thomas.
So Mike, he buys this fruit-looking thing that he's not sure what it does. It could be an aphrodisiac, but if it leaves a yellow waxy ring on anything, he's going to come back for a refund. Now, I didn't think to look this week to see if any of the guest stars had been on other sci-fi
There is one. We haven't seen that person yet. Now, this is David McCollum, who Well, he played Ducky on NCIS.
I've actually not watched that series. Oh, good old custom agents. Are there any plants? Non-thinking animals? Pets?
I'm not sure, Josh Street, what running theme you're speaking of. Or a lot of running themes on this show. And Thomas is accusing me of running a criminal business.
You?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know what he's talking about. Uh-oh.
Cartel of librarians? But yeah, I mean, he closed the man's eyes. He's respectful like that. Okay, have I just never paid enough attention during the intro to hear them specifically say this is 10 years after the Earth-Nabari War?
You must have missed it.
Because they say it every week, right?
They do, yes.
Okay. For some reason, I just missed the number every week.
And Omnicast is correct. Marshall Teague is in this episode. He played a couple roles in Star Trek.
Do you remember any of them?
Yeah, he played a Jemadar.
Okay.
In which episode was that? That was Hippocratic Oath. And he played a Voth in Voyager. Haluk?
I remember the Hippocratic Oath episode. I felt like that was a real good. It was a really good Julian and Miles episode.
Yes, you're thinking of the right one. I'm surprised.
As you should be.
Good for you, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks. Well, see, honestly, that was such a good episode. I mean, Julian's desire to maybe give the Jem'Hadar away from this servitude, and at the same time, O'Brien being pretty correct about how they worship the founders, and all he's going to do is make the Jem'Hadar stronger if he weans them off the white.
Right.
I can't remember though. Was that before or after the episode where they really became friends? I want to say it was before.
Before Miles and Bashir become friends?
Yeah.
They were already friends by this point. At least I would say they were.
Because there was an episode where they ended up on a desert planet, or in a desert on a planet. They were destroying some biohazard thing. And that was really the episode.
That was 2 seasons before.
Okay.
Yeah. Ifley says, look at Jerry Baldy's hair in HD.
This guy can only act with his hands in his pockets. I have the same problem. You can't tell, but my hands are 100% in my pocket right now. Like, if I didn't have my hands in my pockets at this moment, I couldn't talk. So they're detecting an energy spike as soon as the smuggler opens his case, who, not just a smuggler, but one of the best students of this Dr. Vance guy. The guy who can only keep his hands in his pockets.
Now, did you watch a show called A Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Oh, I know the name.
He was in that as well.
Okay. That's one. Uncle was an abbreviation, wasn't it? Or an acronym?
Yes. An acronym, yeah.
Oh, and artifacts from a highly advanced alien society, kind of like the precursors. Sorry, precursors. That's not Trek. That's Star Control, um, which was a video game. Excellent video game if anyone ever
Ah.
wants a fun game to play from the past.
Omni
Who
says, red alert, hands out of pockets.
who in TNG was the alien race that seeded the universe? Were they just called the precursors? The
Oh, what were they called? Uh,
I don't think it was precursors. It was
I don't know if they had an
preservers. Thank you,
official
Omnicast.
preservers. Okay, thank you, Omni.
Oh. So they're scanning the artifact and they're discovering that these were like grown. And this alien race was able to create living ships. So I guess Star Trek wasn't the only series that stole from Babylon 5. I think also Farscape must have gotten some inspiration here and there.
Hmm. And Mr. Londell says UNCLE stands for United Nations Center for Law Enforcement.
So Dr. Franklin is one, he's stunned. And he's saying, you should have come and seen me right away. And Dr. Vance is saying, well, I did. We got here like an hour ago. But he's also saying, you should have had all this in quarantine. And Dr. Vance is claiming that it was all quarantined on the other end, that this has all gone through proper channels. And Slim Shady over there, he has all the paperwork.
Now, the other character, Nelson, he's played by Marshall Teague, and he's the one that played the Jemadar and the Voth in Star Trek.
Okay. And someone else earlier was also, Omnicast was saying he was also in Roadhouse.
It's been a long time since I saw that film, Omni. I don't remember that.
But Dr. Vance wants Dr. Franklin to join him. You know, are you in or are you out?
Well, it's very intriguing to come up with technology that Earth doesn't have from this race 1,000 years ago.
That maybe even the Nabari don't have. Oh, Roadhouse man. He opened Pandora's box and it's not going well. But it's interesting because at this point, we don't know for certain if Vance is aware of his colleagues' underhanded methods for getting in and out of ports. Like, I'm assuming he knows that his colleague uses underhanded methods, but it could be that he is entirely oblivious. And he really does think that the guy has all the proper paperwork. And John is saying that this plot sounds like a combo of Contagion and The Chase. Now, The Chase was the episode that I was talking about with the precursors. We find out that they seeded the universe. Contagion.
Contagion is the one where they get calls from the USS Yamato. It's having problems with system failures, and they go to meet them in the neutral zone. Romulan Nutrizone.
Was that? Oh, that was another precursor episode, wasn't it?
No, the oh, did you catch that?
No.
Sharper than a serpent's tooth. That was title of a Star Trek: The Animated Series episode.
Oh, what? Uh, Iconians. Thank you, Omnicast. Yeah, that was
Iconians.
Contagion was the Iconian episode.
Yeah.
Now was that an intentional reference? The sharper than a saber tooth, or was that a?
Probably not. Not back to that episode. Probably not. But thank you, Josh Street. And John said, I thought of Contagion because of the Iconians.
So Franklin's having some concerns about the ethical ramifications of what they're doing, and in terms of, like, what are we going to do afterwards? We're just going to sell this corporation? This is a waste of your talents.
And John's right. That is a Shakespearean quote. How sharper than a serpent's tooth. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of audio.
Oh, sorry, I turned it up a little bit because there's a quiet scene. Is that better?
Got it.
We would
Yes.
be honored if you would join us.
Hey, Retro Robot Radio, how are you doing? So we're kind of getting to see the difference in mentality between Franklin and Vance. And Vance, he's saying he's lived, and yeah, he's had to take a few shortcuts, but at least he's lived. And Franklin's saying, okay, nice speech, but who's these people that you claimed funded this? Because I've done some research since you told me, and I can't find them anywhere. So yeah, it sounded like maybe Vance was fully aware of what his colleague was doing to get stuff in. And hey, Eli, how you doing today?
And welcome, Anna Shock.
Hey.
Glad you found us tonight. Oh my goodness. Thomas, you're ridiculous.
So Mike apparently, Mike Garibaldi, he's had to leave five other workplaces for quote unquote personal reasons. But he's continuing to have to babysit the news reporter, probably as he's continuing to try to keep her away from Commander Sinclair. Oh, this guy's making bad life choices. But having been exposed to it, he's now further integrating in with this technology that is the culmination of human, or excuse me, not human, but organic and technology. So, Borg? Borg. Nelson isn't here right now.
Thomas, you're ridiculous for suggesting that I can fund dangerous things and that I am, because clearly I am not. And yes, Omni, protect.
It does look like they have more advanced scanners than Star Trek. Mainly made of what looks to be a twisty birthday candle, but still, it's certainly more compact. Now, it's interesting because as soon as he put the thing in his chest, which I'm just going to call a scarab, there was a episode of a TV series called Warehouse 13 that had a very similar episode early on in the season, where there was a scorpion-like thing that would attach the person's spine. It would give them quasi superpowers, shoot lightning, make them impervious to pain, stuff like that.
That was a fun series.
Oh, it's so fun. Like in the early episodes, it was kind of a almost Twilight Zone-esque feel, like, hey, there's weird stuff going on and we go out there and we take care of it. Like what if the government got involved in stopping whatever was causing Twilight Zone scenarios? But by the end, it kind of became more lighthearted than that. Like, great series through and through. Jeff tried to break into Warehouse 13. He's lucky they didn't bronze him. Hey LDG, how you doing this evening?
I wonder that too, Ifley.
Retro Robot Radio. I don't know why I'm trying to call you Robert. I apologize for how many times I'm going to get that wrong. Retro Robot Radio is saying less Borg, more H.R. Geiger. I'm not familiar with H.R. Geiger.
I'm not sure what that is either.
Let me Google this. H.R. I imagine he is an author. Oh, he did Aliens. He's the artist who gave life to Aliens. Okay. So Sinclair is obviously not happy about what's going on. They're trying to figure out what's happening, and Vance can't figure out why the artifact bonded itself to Nelson instead of him. And he's saying, hey, whatever happened, let me try and figure out, because if I'm responsible for causing this, I at least want to be part of the solution. But then he gives this weird smile, like maybe that's not really his desire. Meanwhile, you got more lightning strikes. The bridge is able to track these energy peaks, and it's getting stronger. It's 20% more powerful than the last one. And for someone who's claiming he just wants to protect, I mean, I'm not sure why he's going after people. Like, you know, Franklin made sense. He went into his initial area, but these people are just walking about. News people everywhere. It says, I understand there's a problem. There's been some kind of attack. Let me come into the command center of a classified area with high restrictions and just start asking questions about it, because I'm a news reporter. Ivanova tells her, don't, you're too young to experience that much pain. But she continues to move forward.
Thomas says, send the reporter to interview the bad guy.
who is certainly becoming buffer, starting to have some of that alien feel from, I guess they weren't aliens, the demon feel from the Doom video games. Protect. Yeah, they opened fire, but it's not doing a thing against him.
Nope.
Either he's totally impervious or he's able to generate some sort of shielding, a natural shielding, which would make sense at something that advanced. Cinnabon, no spoilers. Ugh. Well, now I know they blow up the station at the end of the episode.
Take everything he says with a grain of salt. Sometimes a very big grain. And yes, Texas, that is classic Ivanova.
Retro is saying my theory is that the writers of this story were fans of the Guyver. I have not read that. It looks like a fun anime? Made TV show?
Thomas says, unfortunately, they take too long to realize all the weapon needs is a hug.
Can't we just give peace a chance? So they're seeing that his every attack is a hit and run attack, and it's also 20% stronger every time, and it won't be long before he has enough power to blow up the entire station. But they see the direction he's going, and they're trying to intercept. And suddenly Babylon 5 became a Care Bear show. I'm definitely curious to see what its main goal in all this is. Which we might be finding out right now. They just accessed some of the memory banks. The Akarans were invaded a half dozen times. So they strove to create the perfect weapon, which is what apparently we're seeing, I'm guessing.
That'd be a good guess.
So they're saying since it would take too long years to create artificial intelligence or synthetic intelligence, what they call it, they integrated this alien's mind into the device. But they made it such that he would only respond to a pure Ikaran. But how do you define that anymore? And apparently no one was deemed to be pure.
Yes, Retro Robot Radio. I have a hard time saying that name too. I wonder what else happened about 1,000 years ago. That might be something to remember.
And there we go. That's why he's attacking everyone. During the next invasion, they released 11 of these machines with the instruction to attack anything that wasn't a pure Icarian. And unfortunately, they deemed everyone to be impure. As Mr. Lindell is saying, they're comparing it to a certain political party in the 1940s in Germany, and they were doing a robotic Aryan fanfic. And Sinclair, nice moment for him. He's saying, well, is there anything in there that we can talk to? Anything we can try and communicate with? Signs are not good. And yeah, it's walking exposition, but it's got to be said. I mean, you either have a moment like this where you're basically doing the Star Trek briefing room where everyone sits down and says, this is what we discovered off screen. Or you have the plot stop to have the actual Nelson guy narrate, like, you foolish humans, I was created by the strongest, smartest people on my planet to destroy all those who were not pure. So I think the hallway walking scene was serviceable. yeah, Robot. Babylon 5 might be known for some World War II allegories. I think I'm picking up on that and some UN stuff.
There are similarities. John says sterilize.
Exterminate.
You should be familiar with sterilize, shouldn't you, Matthew?
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you? Nomad.
Yes.
It gets there eventually.
It took you a few seconds, but you got there.
So Sinclair is trying to reach out to the memory matrix, not of Nelson, but of the actual person who embedded his mind into this device. And Sinclair is saying, your name is dead. Your world is dead. I mean, that's an interesting thing. Like, Sinclair doesn't know how much of the guy's mind was actually put into this. Is it fully functional? Is it basically a clone of himself at this point? Or is it just...
It's worth a try.
Like if all that's there is just the bare framework of raw emotion, there's no point in trying. But if there was enough of him to be able to rationalize things and grow, it could have worked. Yes, Omni, they're using you. They're using you. Muffled now.
You got it again.
Yeah, protect who? From what? And he's saying, from those who are not impure. And he's saying, your people, how pure were they? And I keep waiting for him to say, like, how pure are even you? It's saying, like, he's formed from a human. Retro is saying that he heard some people say this was a ripoff of Blue Beetle, but the third Blue Beetle came out after this. Blue Beetle, that was the one they just released well, they just released the latest version of it, didn't they? Had George Lopez in it.
That I do not know. Texas Analyst Shock says Gray 17 podcast interviewed the guy that played the alien here, and he said that they had to cut holes in the feet to drain out the sweat
Gross.
that collected while he was wearing the suit.
I have a lot of respect, much like John Cena, actually, if you saw the Oscars last night, for the wardrobe department.
I don't watch shows like that.
I only
I
saw
don't
that
watch
one
those award
clip.
shows.
He came out naked.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah. Holding only the envelope in front of himself.
Yes.
So now he's pointing out, or he's letting the guy know that there's no car left, that you wiped yourself out because no one was pure. Now look in Nelson's mind. He can't hide the truth from you. He can't lie to you. Yeah, I don't blame people for not watching the Oscars. I didn't watch the Oscars. I saw someone online mention this. But, you know, Oscars, they used to be fun, but now it's all just the sound of one hand clapping.
And John is quoting Star Trek.
I'm not sure if it's the Nomad episode he's quoting or the one with the Matt guy who died.
No, it's the Changeling.
Okay.
The one with Nomad.
And sorry, I'm not describing this right now. I'm just enjoying Sinclair's moment and this guy doing a decent job. So he actually pulls the scarab off of himself and crushes it. I'm not sure if this is going to kill him or let the guy come back. We'll find out here in a second. Instant reversion. I think Nelson got lucky.
Speaking of naked,
Yeah.
he's probably naked there.
And the Vance plot, yeah, we kind of left that.
Well, they did have a bit of a situation there.
And Franklin is putting things together that this device would cause a heart attack. And sure enough, Vance was aware of what he was doing. That Nelson killed the customs agent, and that he was acting on your orders the whole time. Why? And Vance doesn't care. He's spilling the beans, but he's like, whatever, I don't care that I got caught. The company was just a front for a bioengineering weapons manufacturer. He's saying, you know, I wasn't just doing this for millions, I was doing this for more money than you could ever conceive. And Franklin's saying, you endangered 250,000 aliens and people just for your profit margins. And Franklin is saying, well, that's why the the alien bonded to Nelson and not to us. It needed someone who was willing to kill. That while Vance, he didn't explicitly order Nelson to kill anyone. He just said, do whatever it takes. And he remained blissfully ignorant of the exact details. But Nelson, he was willing to actually kill someone. And Retro was saying that he made a 3D print of a Nomad model that is 1/18th scale. That is awesome. So in my garage right now, to my shame, is a 1-to-1 scale of Nomad. And the reason it's to my shame is because it's in pieces. The Salty Trekker. He has a channel where he has these fun podcast stuff that he does with a panel of people talking nerd stuff. And he did a meticulous creation of this. In fact, I keep a piece of it on my desk. It came off. I need to fix this. But I keep it here to rebuke me on a daily basis. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Because I was supposed to create the electronics for it. And every time I start to work on it, I think of a better way of doing it. And then nothing happens. And so this sits here to rebuke me and remind me, Matt, you just need to get it done. So Mike he's talking that he too was in the Earth Force. He knows that a lot of guys came out of the war changed. And that a lot of them had this problem where the war gave them definition and direction. And now they're at this point where they're in limbo and they keep looking for a way to go out in a blaze of glory. And Mike thinks that they're looking for something worth dying for because it's easier than living.
And of course, he's talking about Sinclair here.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's very respectful about this. We all know what he's really talking about. But he's definitely calling out Sinclair for his over-eagerness to be the one to go into danger from Mike's perspective. And to his credit, Sinclair does not get mad at him. He does not brush off the accusation. He admits that he doesn't have an answer. Kind of like he's like, you know, you're right. I got this character flaw, and it's not going to be something I can fix overnight. It's not even something I'm sure if I should fix. And so apparently back on Earth, there's this growing humans first movement where they are targeting aliens and, you know, claiming Earth for Earthlings kind of stuff. And Earth Force Defense has shown up saying we've been given orders to take the weapons into our possession. Kind of ending things on an ominous note. In fact, one might speculate that based on the conversation that came right before it, that perhaps this Earth Defensive Forces are kind of got some undertones of Earth for the Earthlings.
I'm sure that won't be important.
Nah. And he's finally given in, having the interview with the reporter. And he's she's saying, why are we even here? Should we even be here? And he's saying, it's important that we are out here, not necessarily for the moment, but because when you look at the big picture, eventually the sun will go out, and it'll take more than just all these famous Earth peoples to survive it. It's going to take all of us, not just humanity on its own, but humanity as part of something larger.
And Ifley's right. That's very reminiscent of Carl Sagan's speech.
Okay. All right, so infection. I was not right. Yep, not right in my prediction. I'm
kind of glad you weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And at the same time, well, let me transition this off the clips there. At the same time, it was my hopes that were right. Like I shied away from it being like, oh, an infection of the mind or computer infection. It's just going to be alien virus. But that's kind of what the actual, like, okay. Yes, there was a literal infection that affected one person as it invaded his body system and was turning him into this grotesque weapon thing. But the actual point wasn't about the bioweapon itself infecting him, but about the infection of the mind. Where it was, well, we have to keep Iconian pure. Only a pure blood Iconian has the right to... Oh, it wasn't Iconian, that's Star Trek. Icarian? I'm just going to keep saying Iconian. But only a pure-blooded Iconian has the right to command and control this weapon. Icaran, thank you. And of course, much like Santa Claus and Futurama, there are no nice people. They're all naughty. There are no pure Icarians. They're all impure. And so it was their own weapons designed to protect them from invasion that ended up being the things that destroy them. And then right on the tail of that, we have the Earth plot, where we are also saying, well, it's only the pure Earthlings that deserve to be on Earth, and we need to attack the aliens. So we're literally doing the exact same thing. And Ivanova made a comment about those who don't know history being doomed to report it. So,
did you say
excellent.
Report it?
I did. Yes. I 100% said report it. Repeat it. I was on such a good roll too.
But these early episodes, they set up so much of what's coming. And someone said in chat, Texas Analyst Shock said that this is regarded as one of the worst, if not the worst, episodes of the entire show. I think some of that comes from Jay Michael Straczynski, the showrunner, creator of the show. He was not happy with this episode after it was produced. So I think some of that comes from his thoughts on it, just being echoed rather. It is one of the lower rated episodes, I will grant you that, but it does set up some things that we'll see later on in the show.
And I can see how this might be considered a lower grade episode, just in like the plot of the guy transforming and shooting up. Like it really kind of was rushed by that point, where it's just like, okay, he's been infected and he shoots Franklin and he walks out and he shoots two more people and he walks away from them and he gets into a firefight but walks away from them. And so like it was kind of like, okay, by the third time you've done the exact same thing where he shoots and then runs away. Like it needs to be building up towards something. And on that point, it was a little weak, but that final speech that Sinclair got to give to him, where like John mentioned it was kind of like, or actually it was Thomas mentioned Kirk defeating him through logic. And then John actually did the quote later. So yeah, there was some reminiscing there, some parallels, but I mean, honestly, you're gonna get that throughout Sci-Fi. Like, I don't feel like that was really a ripoff so much as it is kind of, you know, you can look at that stuff and see the anytime you're doing something sci-fi and someone defeats someone using logic, you're gonna get that. Thomas is saying sorry. Oh, did you mean to do that, or was that an accident, Thomas?
It might have been an accident. I know Thomas is probably working, probably on his phone or iPad or something.
Okay.
He says stupid phones. I think that was a mistake. So sorry about that, Texas and LaShock.
Okay. So Texas, he was saying that this also happens to be the very first episode film, so it's going to be rough regardless.
Was it the first one filmed? I'm not sure of that. I wonder if that's on. Let's see. So it was production number 101, so it was the first one filmed after the pilot. So he's right.
Okay. And that's interesting. It's something we talked about either in the pilot episode or on episode 1, where so often you will get a radical change between a pilot and what you get. See Star Trek, the original series. And or just like where a character starts off at the beginning of the show and where they end up at the end of the show. When it's done right, that's fine because you get your natural character progression. Right. But oftentimes you'll just get someone where it's like, hey, this is how he's introduced in episode 1, and then you get to, you know, episode end, and it's like they just 100% changed his character. One day someone woke up and said, you know what, I don't like him being this smart aleck, wisecracking kind of guy. Instead, we're going to make him like this really serious, wounded person, and there's no reason for it. It's just different.
I don't think you get a lot of that in this series, though. And Omnicast saying that Franklin was introduced later. It's true. Franklin was introduced not in the first episode, but he was in the first one that was filmed. He was introduced in the second one that was both filmed and transmitted.
I remember that, yeah.
And I think they wanted an episode to focus in on the Doctor, so they came up with this story for him, basically, and they wanted a bit of an action story coming off of the last episode, which wasn't action heavy.
True. And Retro was saying that the weapon host wasn't supposed to be a pure Icarian. He served pure Icarians. Okay, so that explains why my earlier comment wouldn't have worked. Where I was saying, well, what's he fussing about? He was made from a human. Well, he wasn't designed to be pure. Which I guess, I mean, from a tactical stance, that actually makes more sense. To be able to take your enemy and turn him onto your side is definitely more tactically advantageous than to lose some of your own soldiers to make them mindless automatons. So, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty fun episode.
It was a fine episode. It had some setup for future episodes. We're introduced to ISN, a reporter from ISN, which I think is fun. We'll see more of ISN later.
We got to see Garibaldi continuing to be just a stand-up guy. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite characters.
I like Garibaldi a lot as a character. He has a good arc in the story, I think, overall.
And we also got to learn more about Franklin, kinda. He kind of had this nice back and forth with Vance about what is the true pursuit of doctors. You know, can a doctor follow the proper paths and be successful, or does he have to be underhanded? And we got this in the Voyager episode, the one where B'Elanna had the creature, the parasite on her, and the doctor had to bring up a program of a hologram of someone who's like this equivalent to
Cardassian doctor, wasn't it?
It was, and it was a Cardassian doctor who specifically did extremely inhumane experiments on Bajorans. And so the tie they were making was there's a very famous Nazi doctor who did that to the Jews and the concentration camps. And we got a lot of modern technology from the atrocities this man committed. And it was this big this big question about, should you use those methods, should you not use those methods, should you use the knowledge gained from those methods to save lives today, or is the very manner in which the knowledge was gained make it immoral to use the techniques and the life-saving measures? Excellent episode, especially because despite what the doctor does at the end, they don't come down on a clear stance, which I really appreciate in a sci-fi show.
That's good sci-fi for you. It lets you make up your mind instead of telling you what your mind should be made as. And just going back to the comments, we also see more interplanetary expeditions later in the series as well. So that was our first introduction to that. So yes, Retro Robot Radio and Eli, you're both right.
And Omni is saying Dr. Krell. I believe that was the name of the individual in the Voyager episode. So we kind of got that today with Dr. Franklin, where should you use shortcuts and bad, immoral means to gain scientific breakthroughs to save people and maybe line your pockets while you're at it, or is a more slow and methodical way of doing things what you should do, even if it means more people die by not following the immoral path? So I think that's it's kind of a low-hanging fruit for a doctor. Obviously the doctor should be pursuing the moral path. You like you don't want an immoral doctor. You want a moral doctor. Like, that's the epitome of doctor. Do no harm above all else. But giving him that opportunity to show that's his mindset, I think that was a good choice for kind of an introductory episode for his character. And Melphis was saying there's a Japanese doctor in World War II who is just as bad as Mengele. That was the Nazi doctor, yeah.
That also brings to mind another Star Trek episode, Ethics, where Worf has his spinal cord damaged and he needs to get a procedure done. But the doctor does things unethically without trial to see if it's safe to do these tests and things, these procedures.
That was a Pulaski
and Dr.
episode, wasn't it?
Crusher. Dr.
That was
Crusher.
Crusher? Okay.
Yep.
I do remember it was one where Worf asked for a honorable killing.
Yes, he asked Riker to do that. And Riker refused.
Which I thought was also another really good episode, in that it kind of showed how, while we're trying to be this big kumbaya, you respect my culture, I respect your culture, it doesn't mean that we blindly accept others' culture. Like, there has to be a baseline of universal morality that guides our doings. And while I'm trying to accommodate your culture, that doesn't mean I'm going to violate my own. And I thought it was nice that Riker actually stood up for his own morals. Like, hey, I understand that's your thing, but that's not my thing, and I'm not going to do it.
If Riker has to respect Worf's morals and ethics, Worf has to do the same with Riker.
Yeah.
It can't be one-sided.
And Retro was saying that U.S. also took German rocket technology from World War II. Yeah, we also took a lot of their scientists post World War II, as I understand. It's a Project
Paperclip?
Yes, Project Paperclip.
Yeah.
Well, I've gone off the rails so much tonight, Jeff. I'm frankly amazed I'm not
And
calling you
we
John.
expect it. We expect that from you, Matthew. So, I'm here to rein you in a little bit as much as I can,
But no, I'm sorry. These are the conversations I love talking about, precisely because I do think good sci-fi apes good sci-fi.
Oh, it does, definitely.
And as we're talking about, there's this thing going on. Well, this sci-fi series did this too. That's kind of correlated. And I think one of the great things about good sci-fi is that it gets you thinking and gets you talking. So I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this episode. Any final thoughts about this week's episode?
I thought it was a fairly good episode for Sinclair and Dr. Franklin, as well as Garibaldi. And I think it focused on those three characters. It showed its early season or series challenges, if you will, and trying to find its footing. It was the first episode produced, so it had some of those problems that early shows have, but it was overall good, and it sets up a lot of things that we'll see in the future. I think that's the most important thing to take from this episode, what it sets up for future episodes.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, guys, I've never seen Babylon 5 before. Each week I watch this fresh with y'all. So you were getting my raw, like, wow, I'm seeing it live with you. But even I can tell the care and attention that's being set up. I mean, okay, obviously they advertise, like they very much aren't subtle sometimes. Like the Earth Defense Force coming in right after Ivanova talks about history reporting itself. So okay, that's not subtle. But there's other things where I'm like, okay, I see where they're going. And like Retro was saying, they weren't afraid to spend a season setting up the universe. And I think that's good, because while they are setting this up, I don't feel like I'm being just dumped exposition on, Each episode is very organically telling me stuff about what's going on. The fact that there's some 1,000-year-old race out there that had this super advanced technology that not even Nabari maybe have. The fact, so we're exploring planets, we're seeing these old civilizations, everyone's coming together ish. The war is fresh. It's an open wound on people's hearts right now, and the fact that we're trying to overcome this, but at the same time there is this movement growing saying, no, we need to focus in on ourselves. Certainly apropos. And that's that's the human condition. This series is 30 years old. 30 years old, Jeff.
30 years old, yeah. It's hard to believe.
And it's still fresh. The subject is fresh.
Yeah, some of the things that we're dealing with today, you could see it in Babylon 5 30 years ago.
So I love it. I'm loving it. Next week, the Parliament of Dreams. Predictions for the Parliament of Dreams. Okay. On the one hand, this could just be a figurative speech thing where this is Sinclair's vision to bring in the different races into a UN thing. So we could be talking about this is the Parliament of his dreams, and now everyone's here. I don't think that's going to be it. I think this is going to be another psychic episode. What's going to happen, though? Because that's really vague. I think people are going to be stuck in a dream state, and the psychic is going to have to come in and figure out why they're in this coma and how to get them out. That's my prediction for Parliament of Dreams.
Sounds like a good episode to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like the Fear episode from Voyager, where they had the Cirque du Soleil people come on, and you had the clown people. Harry Kim was in there. the one where people being scared to death, literally. So that's kind of
Right.
where I'm envisioning this could be going.
And I imagine you mean the telepath comes in to figure out what's going on.
The Psy-Core lady.
Yeah, the telepath. They're called telepaths or teeps.
Okay. So not psychic, excuse me. Telepath. The Psy-Core, who's a telepath.
Josh Street, am I?
Who can say?
I could say, but I'm not going to. Psychic
Well, guys-
Friends Network. Wow, that's a blast from the past, Omni.
Oh. I've always taken the stance that any proper psychic would call me on a 900 number, knowing that I wanted to call them. It never worked, so there's no good psychics out there. That's how I've always viewed it.
But how will they make money if they call you?
Well, so if they were that good enough, they would know that I'd pay them if they could actually call me up and give me all the information I needed. I
not
also
sure
don't
that
trust
would
any
work,
psychic
but-
who's poor. A poor psychic is not a good psychic, in my opinion.
You got a point there.
Oh gosh. Well, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Jeff, you're going to say something there?
Yeah, Omni says 1-900 Bester rules.
100 credits for the first minute, 79 credits each additional minute. Well, yes, everyone, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for being a part of our Babylon 5 streams every week at 9:30-ish, depending on what life throws our ways. And we look forward to seeing you
We
next week.
started 2-3 minutes late. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Take care. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.